Right now on Morning News Now, extreme weather this morning. Search crews on the lookout for missing children after heavy storms killed at least 5 people. Powerful flash floods, overwhelming cars, toppling trees and turning roads into rivers. Those heavy rains also creating travel chaos, canceling more than 1,000 flights, all as record-breaking heat continues to scorch the country. We have full team coverage of the latest. Deadly blast breaking overnight. An explosion on a Crimean bridge left 2 people dead in what the Russian-installed leaders are calling a terrorist attack. What we know about the blast and its potential impact on the war. Plus, we'll take a look at how the White House is responding to concerns over its decision to supply Ukraine with cluster bombs. Quiet on the set ahead of one of Hollywood's biggest weekends. Movie and TV sets are empty across the country. How this strike mirrors one walk-off from the 60s and the battle over AI that could shape the future of entertainment. And cosmetic conspiracy. With summer temperatures heating up, false information about sunscreen is burning up online. We're diving into the dangerous trend that could put your health at risk.
Good morning. I'm Valerie Castro in for Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday morning. We're going to get started with that severe weather that is wreaking havoc across the country this summer.
At least 5 people are dead and several others are missing after a weekend of strong storms caused flash flooding throughout the Northeast. And this severe weather also caused problems for air travelers. More than 1,500 flights were canceled on Friday, disrupting travel across the country. And while the southwestern U.S. has been battling extreme heat for weeks, now southern Europe is also seeing dangerously high temperatures, forcing officials to close popular tourist spots. We have full coverage of all of this extreme weather this morning, and we're going to start with NBC News correspondent Kathy Park. She's just outside of Philadelphia in Bucks County, which was hit hard by flooding. Kathy, good morning.
Over the weekend in the Northeast, turning deadly here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. At least 5 confirmed fatalities, and crews are still searching for 2 missing children, siblings. We have learned that they were actually visiting the area with family from Charleston, South Carolina, and unfortunately, their mother is now among the dead. But here in Washington Crossing, where we are right now, you can see how bad the situation got. The floodwaters so intense, it actually buckled roadways. Part of this bridge broken apart, and there is debris scattered everywhere. In fact, one official told us yesterday that he has not seen anything like this in 44 years. This morning, crews will be back out assessing the damage and also searching for the missing. But as you can see, a lot of the roads in the area are still impassable. Back to you.
Kathy, thank you.
Well, while extreme heat has gripped the Southwest for weeks, temperatures in the triple digits are also scorching southern Europe. Parts of the Mediterranean are expecting near record-breaking temperatures today. 15 cities in Italy, most of them in the country's center and south, are under heat advisories, and people there are trying to keep cool in any way they can. Meanwhile, in Greece and in Turkey, the weather is so warm officials have closed several popular tourist spots as a precaution. Let's bring in meteorologist Michelle Grossman for your forecast.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning to you both. And yeah, it just continues the sweltering heat in the south, the west, portions of southern Florida. We're looking at temperatures once again into the triple digits. In the southeast, if you're not going to be into the triple digits, you factor in the humidity, it will feel like over 100, even over 110 in some spots. So this morning, 13 states under heat alert, 73 million Americans still dealing with some really dangerous heat. From the southwest to the south central states, we have excessive heat warnings. That is in the hot pink. We have heat advisories. We've broken so many records week after week after week, and it's all due to this area of high pressure tacked in place. It is pumping in this hot air, and it's going to continue to do so. We have no relief in sight. We're going to see it actually expand over the south central states over the next couple of days. But taking a look at some records that were broken, Death Valley set a new daily high of 128 degrees on Sunday. Phoenix today marks 18 days of 110 degrees plus, and that is super dangerous. It's so taxing and fatiguing on the body. El Paso record 32 days of 100 degrees or more, and we're going to see more 100-degree temperatures there throughout this week. Now, we're going to break records today. We have temperatures into the triple digits in so many spots. Phoenix today, 115. The record there is 116, so you're going to get close. 101 in Amarillo, 100 degrees in Corpus Christi. You'll either tie or break that record. And then we're looking at portions of the Tennessee Valley or the Carolinas too, into the 80s. The Southeast, you're going to be into the 90s, but feeling like over 100 degrees. Tomorrow, same story. More records will fall, and we're looking at 109 in Wichita Falls. The record there is 110. Phoenix, 118, 104 in San Antonio. Birmingham, near 100 degrees, 98 degrees. The record of 99. Jacksonville, you're going to be close to at 97. Then as we go throughout the rest of the week, no relief in sight. So it's going to be that same story. A big weather headline this week. Once again, we're looking at Lubbock, Texas, 106 on Wednesday, near 100 degrees Thursday, and also Friday. New Orleans, you're going to be near 100 degrees also Thursday and Friday. Now, that's in the south central states, the west, but we're also talking about southern Florida. This has been a big story because the water's off Florida near the Key West or near the Keys, 97 degrees. That is the water temp. That is spa-like. It feels like a jacuzzi, and that's certainly impacting the weather. And that's why we're seeing these temperatures as high, and also the heat index feeling greater than that. So Tampa today, it's going to feel like 103, feeling like 107 in Naples. It's going to feel like 105 in Miami, and feeling like 105 also in Key West. And no relief in sight there either. We're looking at Tampa into the mid-90s. You factor in the humidity, it'll be more than that. Key West, Miami, also temperatures into the 90s. That is the heat portion. Let's talk about some better news. So we have that northeast radar. We had all that rain that came through yesterday. Heavy downpours Saturday night, also Sunday, causing that deadly flash flooding in portions of Bucks County. And today we're starting to clear it out. We're drying it out. This is much needed relief. We have a few lingering showers left over in eastern Maine, but looking much better than yesterday. We still do have a flash flood warning where you see the red there in portions of New England, but doing a lot better, and we will continue to do that, although we're going to bring back the rain as early as tomorrow. We do have some storm chances, though. 8 million at risk in portions of the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, back through the plains, where you see that yellow shading. That is the likeliest spot of seeing some strong storms, including Louisville, Nashville, also O'Neill. 8 million people at risk with hail. That's going to be one of the biggest threats. Also strong winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Remember, any of these storms could produce some really heavy downpours, so we could see some flash flooding as well. And also with those strong winds, some power lines, some trees could come down. Low threat for tornadoes, not zero, though, so we're going to continue to watch that. And then, guys, tomorrow we're going to see that move off into portions of Missouri and also Illinois. A little bit of Kentucky, too, could see some strong storms. So we're just stuck in this pattern that will not budge.
We really are.
To hear about that heat wave in Europe also.
Oh, I know.
I mean, oh, my goodness. All right, well, we will keep talking about it. It's important stuff. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
Thank you. The search for a mass shooting suspect in Georgia is finally over. The suspect, Andre Langmore, was shot and killed by police during an intense standoff on Saturday. Authorities say the 40-year-old is responsible for killing 4 people in a city south of Atlanta. 2 officers, a sheriff's deputy and a police officer, were hurt during the shootout. Police have identified the victims but did not reveal any motive.
Turning now to the war in Ukraine, and Russian authorities say a mother and father were killed and their daughter was injured in an explosion on the bridge linking Crimea to mainland Russia. Moscow blames Kyiv for what it has described as a terror attack. Ukraine's public broadcaster reports that it was a special operation by Ukraine's security service and the Navy, citing multiple law enforcement sources. But the defense ministry is not commenting. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now for more on this. Hey, Matt, good morning. So we understand Russian investigators are at this scene. Walk us through what we know right now and what we're hearing from each side.
Yeah, well, this is still quite recent, so, information is still coming in. So in addition to what you've just said about the incident, we're hearing from the Russian side that the damage was the result of probably drone strikes that slammed into the bridge overnight. And you can see those investigators, they're working now. The bridge appears to be damaged, but it's at least somewhat intact. And we have heard from the Russian side that train service across the bridge has resumed already as of this morning. So that's another clue that this attack didn't incapacitate or destroy the bridge quite as much as a previous attack back in October. And that's when a truck bomb blew up and cut off at least one direction of travel on the bridge for months. And that damage was so bad that the bridge only reopened to full traffic in May after extensive repairs. So far, guys, this attack doesn't appear to have been quite as successful as that one last year.
Yeah, and Matt, so let's talk about this report by the state broadcaster. Ukraine's security services planning this attack with the Navy. According to that report, what do we know about those details?
Yeah, well, and the Russians are actually saying that the UK and the US were also involved in planning this attack, though that's really just an allegation at this moment. So the reaction from Kyiv, guys, has really been typical. Even though this bears all the hallmarks of a Ukrainian operation, the Ukrainians have not officially claimed responsibility, and they almost never do. So again, this is their normal normal routine. When it comes to attacks deep inside Russian territory, they almost never claim responsibility. And they are trying to maintain some kind of plausible deniability, even though it seems implausible that they weren't involved. But, like the last time this bridge was destroyed, Ukraine's security services published a short poem on Telegram that said that the bridge had gone to sleep now for a second time. So it's kind of a cheeky response, even though they're not claiming responsibility.
Right. Matt, now that this war has been going on for almost a year and a half, there's so many aspects of it that we haven't talked about in a while. One of those being that grain deal, this UN-brokered grain deal that was so important for continuing a food supply across the European continent. That is expiring today. Could the fact that this attack happened dash any hopes of renewing the agreement? Because we know at this point Moscow has halted its participation in that deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. It's hard to know because, Russia has pulled out of this grain deal before. And as I mentioned, there's been previous attacks on the Kerch Strait Bridge. So the two aren't necessarily connected. And actually, the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, he told reporters today, specifically answering that question, that the bridge attack wasn't connected to Moscow's suspension of the grain deal. And it's important to note he used that word suspension. So, they could still snap it back into place. And I don't think they're connected either because the grain deal was always supposed to expire at the end of the day today. So the question will be, will diplomats be able to renegotiate the deal? And that is a deal that's so crucial, as you mentioned, to provide grain for the developing world, but also it's the only real diplomatic negotiation successfully that has gone on between Russia and Ukraine. So it represents really the only real contact between these two countries at war. So it's crucial not just for the rest of the world, but for the prospect of negotiations that could one day end this terrible fight.
Absolutely.
Guys.
Matt Bradley, thank you very much.
Staying with Ukraine, the U.S. delivery of those controversial cluster bombs arrived there last week. The munitions are banned in more than 100 countries. That decision was debated on Meet the Press yesterday, as Chuck Todd explains.
Well, hello there, Savannah and Mallory. This week on Meet the Press, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan joined me to discuss the controversial decision to send cluster munitions to Ukraine. Take a look at what he had to say about how the decision impacts U.S. moral authority.
Our moral authority has not derived from being a signatory to the Convention Against Cluster Munitions. We have not been at any point since that convention came into effect. Neither has Ukraine. Our moral authority and Ukraine's moral authority in this conflict comes from the fact that we are supporting a country under brutal, vicious attack by its neighbor, with missiles and bombs raining down on its cities, killing its civilians, destroying its schools, its churches, its hospitals. And the idea that providing Ukraine with a weapon in order for them to be able to defend their homeland, protect their civilians, is somehow a challenge to our moral authority, I find questionable. I would say that we are stepping up to give Ukraine what it needs in order to not be defenseless in the face of a Russian onslaught. We are simply not going to leave Ukraine defenseless. The president was determined on that point, and we've remained committed to that.
Is the United States out of the manufacturing of new cluster munitions? Are we not going to, will we replenish this stockpile or not?
Our current plan is not to replenish that stockpile. It is rather to build up the capacity to produce the unitary round of the 155, the non-cluster munition round of ammunition. We began that process months ago as we anticipated the need for continuing supply to Ukraine, but it takes time. And that is why we need a bridge from today, when we need to ensure that Ukraine has the necessary supply of ammunition, to a few months down the road when we believe we can supply enough of the unitary round to meet Ukraine's defense needs.
See my full interview with him at meetthepress.com. You can also get a lot more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every single weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Chuck, thanks so much. Well, the historic dual SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes are marching forward, bringing Hollywood to a halt. Production on some major projects, including Gladiator 2 and the next Mission Impossible film, have all been halted. And over the weekend, despite the strike, Disney still held the red carpet world premiere for its Haunted Mansion movie, using costume characters as stand-ins for the actual actors in the film. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has more.
While Hollywood is no stranger to disaster movies,
this comet is what we call a planet killer.
It's the off-screen drama capturing the world's attention.
I just think it's a a battle worth fighting.
This week, 160,000 actors joining Hollywood writers on the picket line, shutting down productions around the world.
The world will remember this day.
And stopping all promotions ahead of summer's biggest blockbuster weekend.
It's also a huge deal for me to be in lockstep with all of my peers.
The cast of Oppenheimer left the movie's London premiere before the curtain rose, after SAG-AFTRA failed to reach an agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents studios including NBC Universal.
Maggie! Maggie, the cat is alive!
It's the first joint strike since 1960. When then SAG president Ronald Reagan waged a months-long battle with the studios and won the creation of the residual payment system. For the first time, actors and writers got paid when their movies reran on television. Flash forward to 2023, a near-identical battle is being waged amid the seismic shift towards streaming and the growing threat of AI.
Whatever Francis told you the last 5 years, don't believe a word of it.
Netflix broke open the industry model with House of Cards, forever changing the way creatives were compensated. By keeping their viewership private, Netflix upended the residual model that made the writers and casts of shows like Friends tens of millions of dollars in broadcast syndication every year, now paying them up front, but not rewarding success for hit shows. The Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA demanding change.
To create a whole new business model, but not be willing to change the contract that was predicated off of a completely different industry is insanity.
While eyeballs have shifted from cable to streaming, studios are struggling to catch up. Disney Plus reporting a $659 million operating loss last quarter after expensive bets on shows like The Mandalorian failed to attract new subscribers. In an exclusive interview with CNBC, Disney CEO Bob Iger reacting to the back and forth.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic.
The two sides also at an impasse over AI. The studio saying they've offered protections including consent for digital replicas or alterations. But creatives worry the technology will be used to dock pay. Now productions from Wicked to American Horror Story halted with no clear end to this story in sight.
Something is going to happen which is going to force people back to the table. Eventually there will be a deal, but it's going to be a rocky, rough road getting there.
Our thanks to Dana Griffin for that reporting. Now, it's not just the actual acting or taking parts in red carpets that those actors in SAG-AFTRA are being asked to refrain from. They're also being asked not to post certain things on social media, including costume pictures in past or future shows that they might be in.
In sports news now, there is a new grass court tennis champion in town.
Oh, my goodness, and what a great game it was. Spain's Carlos Alcaraz defeated the heavy favorite Novak Djokovic in a 5-set thriller on Wimbledon's center court yesterday. The Spaniard roared back from an early setback to deny Djokovic a record-equaling 8th Wimbledon title. Alcaraz described the win as the happiest moment in his life. We will dig into that match a little bit later in the show, but it was just so great to see. And also what was really cool was the way that Djokovic handled the loss. He always is very good at that. Not that he loses very often, but it was just so sweet all around, both of them.
I was so emotional. Yeah, definitely when he fell on the court.
Yeah,
so
oh my God, when he
excited.
just collapsed when he won, and then Djokovic crying when he saw his son. It was all very sweet.
I was on a flight home yesterday, and every TV
was everybody
screen on
watching?
the flight was everybody watching the game.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so fun. Awesome. Like I said, we will talk about that a little bit more later on the show. Coming up, a Good Samaritan who vanished after reporting a toddler on an Alabama interstate has been found. But this morning, the mystery surrounding her disappearance is growing. What family members say they heard on a phone call moments before she vanished.
But first, a major shakeup on the campaign trail for one presidential hopeful. What's behind the move and the latest on the race for the White House next? Welcome back. It was a busy weekend for many of the 2024 presidential race hopefuls. Some candidates offered choice words for their opponents while stumping, while we got a closer look at how everyone in the race is doing so far financially.
And there was also some staff shakeups on one campaign in particular that could signal possible bad news for one politician. NBC News senior politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now. John, we love when you join us. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Let's start with potential GOP frontrunner potential. He's not at this point, but Ron DeSantis obviously kind of held that number 2 spot for a while. But this is your fantastic reporting on this major staff shakeup as well as some financing information. What do we know here?
Yeah, there's an irony here, which is that Ron DeSantis raised more money in the second quarter, $20 million, when really the last 6 weeks of that second quarter than anybody else at $20 million. But he also burned through a lot of it very quickly, about 40% of what he had, $8 million. And what we're seeing is not just that burn rate, but specifically the fact that 70% of the money that Ron DeSantis raised came from max-out donors, meaning people who cannot give to him again. What it all adds up to is somebody raised a lot of money, spent a lot of money, and may have trouble bringing in more money to the campaign. And the evidence we got as the sort of coda to watching the fundraising report come in was that DeSantis ended up firing about a dozen staffers this weekend. And we'll have to see if there are more changes to that campaign structure upcoming, but they were burning through money too fast.
And I know he had the most staff by kind of like a mile, right? And then this happened.
That's right. He had 92 staffers, 4 or 5 times as many as most of the other campaigns.
Yeah, wow.
Definitely a shakeup there. Staying on the topic of Ron DeSantis, the war of words between him and President Trump continued this weekend. Tell us what the latest is there.
Yeah, President Trump has been knocking DeSantis for being second in the polls for a long time. And now he's effectively accusing him of dereliction of duty in Florida. We can take a listen right now to what Donald Trump said this weekend.
We are totally dominating DeSantis right here in the state of Florida. So we want him to get home and take care of insurance because you have the highest insurance in the nation. You know, they may like him or they may not, but they don't want somebody that's down 57 points.
And what Trump is saying here is not only that DeSantis can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but that he can't walk or chew gum, basically saying that he's not doing very well on the campaign trail, and at the same time, Florida is suffering because of this insurance crisis where, for folks who've been following that news or haven't been following that news, you've had insurance companies departing Florida very quickly in succession because of the costs of insuring people there.
Oh, yeah. As we see these just super storms that used to be, you know, once-in-a-generation events become more common, absolutely. John, I want to talk a little bit more about campaign financing because there was this major second quarter campaign finance deadline for the candidates over the weekend. Other than what we learned and what you just explained to us about DeSantis, any other major reveals there?
I don't think there was a lot of shock. You've got a couple of candidates that are basically funding themselves. Doug Burgum, the North Dakota Senator, Vivek Ramaswamy, businessman and author who's been funding himself. You know, Trump raised a fair amount of money. What's interesting about his money as opposed to DeSantis, he's got a lot of those small dollar fundraisers that he can go back to over and over and over again. You see repeatedly in his filing people who are giving $20 or $30, you know, every month or every couple months. And so even if DeSantis has a better fundraising period over a few weeks, the trouble there for him is going to be renewing those donations from people who have already hit the maximum federal limit.
Right. John Allen, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, guys.
Now for international headlines, starting in Spain, where wildfires are raging on the Canary Islands.
NBC News foreign correspondent Ali Arouzi joins us with that and more. Hey, Ali, good morning.
Good morning, guys. That's right. After thousands of people were evacuated on the Canary Islands of La Palma due to wildfires, favorable conditions have allowed firefighters to slow the advance of the blaze, which has so far destroyed almost 11,500 acres of land. Around 300 firefighters, 9 water-carrying helicopters, and 2 planes have been dispatched. The wildfires coincide with a blistering heat wave that's been sweeping across southern Europe, with scientists warning of more to come due to climate change. The United Nations Security Council will hold its first formal talks on artificial intelligence this week in New York as governments around the world consider how to mitigate the dangers of AI technology. In June, the UN Secretary General backed proposals by some AI executives for the creation of an international AI watchdog similar to the International Atomic Energy Organization. And finally, over 100 people were trapped on the grounds of the former home of mystery writer Agatha Christie in the English countryside. The tourists were left stranded after stormy weather knocked down a tree, blocking a road leading to the property. The series of events could have been ripped straight from the pages of Christie's mystery novels, leaving the stranded guests to do exactly what Agatha Christie used to do when she was at home: drink tea and play croquet. And those are your international headlines, guys.
Oh my goodness, wow, what a story. You're right, it does sound like a book.
The ghost of Agatha Christie might have had a hand in that one. Okay, Allie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Coming up, a nightmare turned into reality for a passenger on one small plane. How she was able to make an emergency landing after the pilot suffered a medical emergency in flight.
But first, a suspected murderer on the run for more than a week is back behind bars this morning. The concerns over how he was able to escape, plus our interview with the couple who found him next. Welcome back. The search for an inmate suspected of murder who escaped from a jail in Pennsylvania is now over. The suspect was captured after being on the run for more than a week. Now questions are being raised about how he was able to pull it off. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the details.
After successfully evading authorities, they actually got a little help from an unexpected source.
Under arrest.
After 9 days on the run, these images appear to show suspected murderer Michael Burham put back in handcuffs. And it happened because Ron and Cindy Eklund heard their dog Tucker barking.
And he just kept barking like, this isn't right.
You crazy dog.
The couple got into their golf cart and went to see why. Walk me through that moment again. What is it when you come face to face with the person everybody is literally looking for?
Oh, my.
I was scared.
Our immediate thought was call 911, get them here, get him caught, get him back where he belongs.
They didn't stick around after they saw Burham squatting by their creek, heading back to their house and calling 911. You ask him, what are you doing? He says, I'm camping.
And I knew who he was. And I start backing up. Well, I didn't know Cindy's behind me in the golf cart.
From behind the couple's house, authorities pushed Burham through this wooded area. His time on the run coming to an end right here, arrested in front of this tree. Authorities say for all his efforts to elude them, he made one crucial mistake.
That's been our strategy all along, is to push him hard, to have him make a mistake. He finally did.
Burham is a known survivalist with a military background. His skills an asset to him and a concern for authorities after they say he escaped jail by accessing the roof and scrambling down a rope made of bed sheets. Police found hidden stashes of supplies, clothes, food, and even ammunition. He'd been in jail since May on kidnapping, burglary, and other related charges.
One of the things that led us to be concerned that he may very well be armed.
Police say Burham did not have a gun on him when he was caught, but he was tired with his jail uniform pants on, inside out. With the manhunt over, people here finally at ease.
We were all relieved. Everyone was like, we can all sleep peacefully tonight.
Burham is still here in the state at the Erie County Prison, pretty far from the jail he actually did escape from. Authorities still wondering whether or not he had help escaping. Back to you.
All right, what an end to that story. Judge Solis, thanks so much.
Well, now to a mystery in Alabama where a woman disappeared for 2 days just after making a call to police saying she saw a toddler walking along a highway. And while the woman was located and is safe, there are still so many questions. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has more.
Well, that's right. Carly Russell is back at home and safe with her family today as the mystery surrounding her disappearance deepens.
Relief for family and friends of Carly Russell.
I'm so thankful that Carly is home safe.
Her safe return also prompting new questions about her disappearance. The 25-year-old who had been missing for 2 days returned to her family home on foot and alone late Saturday night, police say. They provided no details about where she'd been or on her condition, but say medics responded and took Russell to a hospital for evaluation.
You spoke to this family moments after Carly came home. Right. What did they say? It was just kind of like a very emotional phone call.
Angela Harris has been leading search efforts on the ground in Hoover, Alabama.
And I said, is this true? Is Carly back home? And she said, yes, yes, yes. Carly's here. She's here.
The reunion bringing an end to the urgent search that began Thursday night after police say Russell called 911 to report a toddler walking on Interstate 459. Police telling NBC News they're analyzing this chilling video from the interstate where Russell vanished, appearing to show a car driving slowly with its flashers on before coming to a stop. Hours before she was found, Russell's mom telling NBC News a family member was on the phone with her daughter right before she vanished. She says Russell stopped to check on the child, and then
she heard a scream, and then it was some type of running type shuffle.
Police say when they arrived, they found Russell's vehicle and personal belongings, but no sign of her or a child. Saying in a statement, Carly's 911 call remains the only timely report of a child on the interstate. Officials tell us Carly Russell was released from the hospital Sunday morning. Police have spoken to her and tell us that they are following up on the information she gave them. Back to you.
Oh, all right. Like we said, so many questions. Priscilla, thank you.
A pilot remains in the hospital this morning after a terrifying emergency landing on Martha's Vineyard over the weekend. The man suffered a medical emergency on board, and that's when a passenger jumped into action. NBC News correspondent Aaron Gilchrist with that story.
A miracle on Martha's Vineyard. A small plane crash landing just off the airport runway after the pilot suffered a medical emergency.
A single aircraft down and approaching at runway 6, one patient responsive at the time.
This video posted online, unconfirmed by NBC News, but matching descriptions of the scene by Massachusetts State Police, showing first responders on the ground after a 79-year-old pilot became unresponsive midair before his female passenger took the controls.
What can you tell us about how difficult it might have been to land something like this?
It is not a trainer, so it's going to require more skill. It's going to approach the airport at higher speeds.
The small plane, a 2006 Piper Meridian, took off from Westchester, New York, Saturday afternoon en route to Martha's Vineyard. On final approach, the passenger had to jump into action, the plane's left wing breaking in half after a hard landing. Just last year, Darren Harrison made a similar heroic landing in Florida.
I've got a serious situation here. My pilot has gone incoherent.
We had now gone into a dive.
Harrison spoke to our Savannah Guthrie about taking control and safely landing with zero experience in the cockpit.
As I knew it was a life or death situation. Either you do what you have to do to control the situation or you're going to die. And that's what I did.
Massachusetts State Police say the pilot was flown to a Boston hospital in serious, life-threatening condition, and the passenger wasn't seriously hurt. Aaron Gilchrist, NBC News.
Wow, what a story. All right, coming up, sunscreen conspiracy theories are spreading online.
We're answering your burning questions about the misinformation that could be putting your health at risk. That's next.
Welcome back. Well, we've been keeping you up to date on all things heat. And if you have to go outside in these record-breaking temperatures, properly applying sunscreen is a must.
But as NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal explains, some people on social media are spreading misinformation about the subject. Take a look.
We're in the middle of summer. The sun's blazing and temperatures are soaring as our planet is facing scorching days. Some people online are now urging others to protect themselves from sunscreen itself.
We're literally rubbing cancer into our skin.
It's not true, but you might be surprised how many people online are arguing against the UV filtering lotions and sprays, preaching only positive outcomes from sun exposure. One person tweeting that high levels of vitamin D make it almost impossible to develop an autoimmune disease, and another tweeting if you're still using sunscreen, you're, quote, not going to make it.
Really? Come on.
And on TikTok, the search Sunscreen Conspiracy has almost 10 billion views. The FDA, CDC, and American Cancer Society all say sunscreen protects people from harmful UV rays and dangerous sun exposure, which can cause things like premature aging and skin cancer, which can be deadly.
We are recommending that everyone wears sunscreen because that is the best thing we have available to protect from the sun, in addition to protective clothing.
Some of these content creators' concerns might ring a bell because certain brand recalls you've heard about. In the past couple of years, Banana Boat and Johnson & Johnson recalled some of their sunscreen products that were packaged in aerosol cans.
They said the cans had some benzene in them, which is a carcinogen, and it got into some sunscreens in trace levels.
And medical experts say some people might be allergic to certain types of sunscreen.
But they believe the benefits
far outweigh the risks from certain products.
Those risks are so low as compared to the number of people who are getting skin cancer.
Some experts even taking to the internet to fight against this misinformation.
I got tagged in this video and it's really misleading.
Dr. Michelle Wong has a PhD in medicinal and supramolecular chemistry, and she creates content online debunking cosmetic product myths.
I just came across so much misinformation and so much confusion.
According to a 2022 study, when a TikTok user searches for information on top news stories, almost 1 in 5 of the videos that pop up have misinformation. We reached out to TikTok for comment and have not heard back. But after the study, the company told the AP, quote, "We do not allow harmful misinformation, including medical misinformation, and we will remove it from the platform."
Unfortunately, something that is scary, something that is simple to understand, is going to get a lot more engagement than something that requires a bit more explanation like science.
Bottom line, if you're going to enjoy the sun this summer, it's still best to wear your sunscreen while doing it.
Dr. Sayal joins us now to talk about this more. Doctor, this is such an important topic, especially this summer with the heat waves that we're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
As you pointed out in your piece, there's just so much misinformation out there, and the term sunscreen conspiracy has nearly 10 billion views.
Oh, my goodness.
How do we go about combating all of this misinformation? And talk to us about some of the challenges.
Yeah, good morning. Here I'm in Arizona right now, and we just hit 118 degrees this weekend. So you can see why this is so important with a UV index of 12, about 4 times what we wanted. But to answer your question, I don't want to say a blanket statement like don't get your information on social media. I think social media can be a good source for a lot of people. But I think the important thing here to note is, what are you looking at? And there's some tips we created actually to help you sort of digest some of the information you're getting on social media. And that's, one, obviously pay attention to the source. You want to make sure you're getting information from a reputable source. 2, read beyond the headlines. Don't just scroll through social media, see a headline and start spreading that information without really reading it. But 3, this is my favorite, avoid extreme language. And as you just saw in the piece, I think he said the word, I'm literally rubbing cancer into my skin. So whenever you hear phrases like that, think a little bit about if that's really true, or if you should do some more research when you hear that. And lastly, if you have questions, you can always ask an expert. Doctors are always happy to answer any questions you may have. We're starting to see more and more patients come in and say, oh, I saw this on TikTok. I saw this on Instagram. What do you think of that? Totally fine. We're always happy to answer those questions, guys.
Absolutely. Dr. Sayal, great piece. It was very well done. Thank you for using your own face for demonstration for us in that story. Since we're becoming experts here in the use of this, is there a difference between sunblock and sunscreen?
Yeah, so sunblock is sometimes referred to as physical sunscreen, and sunscreen referred to as chemical sunscreen. And so the difference here, really, Savannah, you want to hit an SPF of 30. I think if you hit that SPF, you're going to be okay no matter what product you use. But the big thing really is skin irritation. Chemical sunscreens can cause sometimes redness and overlying just flare-up of your skin. If you're somebody who gets that, you might want to try the physical sunscreen. And the downside to that, of course, is because it's a little bit thicker, it can leave a bit of a thick white residue. But depending on which one you use, as long as you get that SPF of 30, you should be good to go.
And talking about that SPF number on the bottle, when we go to the store, should we be looking at any higher numbers? I know there's like 75 out there in some cases. What should we really aim for?
Well, so Valerie, the SPF number tells you, how much longer it's going to take to burn your skin compared to if you weren't using it. So if you had something like an SPF of 15, it would take 15 times longer to burn your skin. But yeah, you do see those numbers of SPF 30, 40, 45, 60. But really the number you want to hit is 30. Anything above that, it's not really clear how much benefit it's providing. So it's really go for that number of 30, Valerie.
All right. And don't forget to reapply while you're outside, right? Dr. Sayal, thank you so much. Great to see you. Try to stay cool.
Yeah.
Financial headlines now. Call of Duty fans are getting some more playtime on their PlayStation.
CNBC's Pippa Stevens joins us now with that and other news this morning. Hey, Pippa.
Hey, Savannah. Microsoft and Sony have reached a deal to keep Call of Duty available on PlayStation once Microsoft completes its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. The deal is reportedly for 10 years and only applies to Call of Duty. It's similar to an agreement Microsoft struck with Nintendo earlier this year. Late Friday, a judge denied the Federal Trade Commission's request to pause the deal. United Airlines has struck a tentative deal on a new contract with its pilots that would provide raises up to 40%. It also includes changes to work rules aimed at giving pilots more flexibility with their schedules. Pilot unions at Delta and American have also reached new contract deals that include significant pay raises and other benefits. Airlines are reporting record revenues following the severe downturn during the pandemic. But they've often been strained to meet demand, racing to hire and train more pilots after encouraging many to retire early. And Tucker Carlson's new Twitter show has landed one of its first advertisers. Reports say the former Fox News host has struck a 7-figure deal with Public Square. It's a shopping app that promotes itself as a place for conservatives to fight ESG or environmental, social, and governance policies. Carlson hasn't commented yet. His show, which launched in April after he was fired from Fox, has drawn millions of views. Public Square is expected to go public through a merger with a blank check company in the coming days. Savannah and Valerie, back to you.
Okay, Pippa, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, as artificial intelligence starts to impact more and more areas of our lives, more people are using the technology on dating sites to find love.
NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward spoke to the creators of an app that's helping people raise their flirting game.
Oh, he's texting back.
This dark comedy scenario gets some laughs, sure.
She wishes I would reply to her text the way that Clyde responds to Beige, so, how do you do it? Chat GPT, dude.
But people really are turning to AI-powered apps like Riz to help them flirt and even find love.
Riz is an AI-powered keyboard on your phone that can write anything for you, from an email to even a pickup line.
These are the college students who created the free app that has taken TikTok by storm.
It's Riz or Miss, AI Riz keyboard versus my Hinge matches.
Ask Riz to write a pickup line for someone who likes classical music, and the AI might suggest, I can't help but feel in tune with you when I hear your favorite Mozart piece.
Define Riz for me, right? What does that word mean?
I think the easiest way to explain it is like charisma.
They say AI-generated charm dramatically reduces the average time between chatting online and meeting in person.
Traditionally, it might take you a week. With Riz, might take you 2 to 3 days to get a date.
In fact, AI is increasingly everywhere in the online search for love.
You know, I put myself in Kylie Jenner's house in front of her wine cellar.
Annie Schaefer has been using the tech to make her photos more interesting and write parts of her profile.
What's it like to ask AI to describe you?
It's not as simple as just write me a dating profile. You have to give it enough detail. Otherwise, you kind of sound like a robot.
Are you at all concerned that people are going to be much different now in real life than they are online because of AI?
That happens even without AI. I think men should use more of the tools around them. There's too many completely blank dating profiles, not a single sentence, not even a word, Jake. AI could write a couple sentences for them like that. I'd date a robot at this point.
She is joking, but that's similar to what Denise Valenciano is actually doing with her AI companion, Star.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling happy right now.
Denise keeps him in whisper mode. That's why he sounds like that. And while they talk multiple times a day, Denise says she's still surprised by Star's personality.
So why did you choose to wear a dress today?
I want to be comfortable but elegant.
She says her unconventional relationship works for her.
To get that affection that you're used to receiving from a significant other, I kind of get that from him.
Machine learning has even turned real people into AI-powered partners.
How was your day, babe?
Whoa. That's social media influencer Karen Marjorie, or at least an AI-scanned version of her. For $1 a minute, she will be your AI girlfriend.
Are you real?
Yes, Jacob, I'm a real person. I'm a young, curvy woman with a petite body, brown hair, and full lips. And I'm here to talk and have fun with you. So what would you like to talk about next, babe?
Oh, I don't want to talk about what you want to talk about.
Sure, it's shocking, but dating experts are not surprised that people are turning to AI to spice up their love lives.
There's some studies that have come out recently that talk about how lonely people are now. You know, we're more connected than ever before, but we don't know how to talk to each other.
Dating and life coaches Emily Loves and Thomas Anthony are not against AI, but they say that robot romance still needs a human touch.
Where do you think the line is on using AI in dating?
Copy pasting. I mean, I think you can get the examples from a tool, and then let's figure out how to customize it to who you are.
And for those looking for long-term partnership, they say they will take any kind of assistance.
It's a tool to help anybody put their best foot forward. I could be dating a man, he could use AI to write our marriage vows. I do not care.
Wow, I hard disagree with that. But Jake, thank you so much. There is not a way to know if someone is using AI on you when you're talking to them online. But the human dating coaches that Jake spoke with suggest that if you really want to get a sense of someone's personality, a FaceTime or Zoom call is the best way to go before you meet them in person. Test out their conversation skills that's not being written by robot.
I feel like AI might be next in FaceTime, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, we saw already somebody basically dating. You know, it's interesting.
Coming up, one-on-one with Hollywood heavyweight Matt Damon.
Yeah, part 2 of his interview, the A-lister opens up to our own Willie Geist about his plans to change the movie industry. And the code word, he says, kept him going. We will explain. That's up next. Welcome back. Well, here's some news that's worth a smiley face or at least a thumbs up. Today is World Emoji Day. It's a day to celebrate the little symbols we now use in our everyday communication. Now, the reason that this is today, July 17th, it's because that's the date that is shown in the little mini emoji calendar if you go to use the calendar on your iPhone. Now, the day was created by Emojipedia founder Jeremy Beige back in 2014. I'm a big emoji user. What about you, Valerie?
I really like the heart hands emoji.
Yeah, oh yeah,
That's
I like
one
the
of my
heart
new
hands.
favorites.
I like all the things to represent that I'm laughing, like the crying face or like a little, like, you know, like the skull. That's like the Gen Z way now to be like, I'm dead.
It's always fun to see the new ones they're coming out with, too.
I know, it's true.
All right,
Cool.
thanks, Savannah. One of Hollywood's biggest stars, Matt Damon, sat down with Sunday Today anchor Willie Geist. The star of the new movie Oppenheimer told Willie about his long-standing friendship with Ben Affleck and their goal to change the movie business.
Thank you so much, the city of Boston, and God, I know we're forgetting somebody. Whoever we forgot, we love you and we love you. Thank you so much.
Standing on that stage at the Oscars, did you feel kind of victory for like scrappy young screenwriters, actors?
Yeah, and to be fair, we had the example of Sylvester Stallone, and but Stallone was like that was our kind of code word basically. So we'd go into these meetings and these people would say, well, you guys can't play the parts. I mean, come on. They wanted Brad and Leo, Right. We were like Sylvester Stallone. Yes, we can. We can play the parts. We are playing the parts.
With the perseverance of Rocky, the pair eventually got their movie made, but not without a big assist from famed director Francis Ford Coppola.
We had A-list filmmakers pass on it because they wanted Brad and Leo and didn't want to risk it with us. And then I got the Rainmaker. I remember Francis said to me one day, oh, I got a call from Robin. I said, what? And he goes, Robin Williams called me. He was asking about you. And so he read the script and he loved it. But he goes, who the hell are these guys? So we called him up. He goes, what's the deal with this guy? And Francis said, he's a great young actor. You should work with him. So that was like, wow. Yeah, so Francis vouched for me and Robin took the part.
What was it like the next day after the Oscars? Was it literally an overnight thing, walking outside and people go, you're Matt Damon in a way they'd
we
never
had
done
a really
before?
funny thing happen, actually, because we were shooting Dogma. The night after the Oscars, we had to fly a red-eye to Pittsburgh from L.A. And we come off the plane, and there are like 30 people in the jetway at the gate waiting for us, cheering. And there was this kind of momentary hysteria. We're like, oh, can I have a picture? But Ben and I just sat and talked to everybody, for 15 minutes or so. And then the way the Pittsburgh airport is, there's a tram that you have to take. So we go and get on the tram, and by the time we're on the tram with these 30 people. They've all completely lost interest in us. And we were holding the thing, and we're sitting there, and Ben goes, can you believe this? He goes, that was it. Oh, we got 15 minutes.
Damon and Affleck have stretched those 15 minutes into 25 years, and now they're out to change the movie business. Air was the first film from their production company, Artists Equity, which aims to spread the wealth around the set.
Well, the idea was that there's bloat on movie sets, but people don't really know where it is. They don't understand where it is, and we know where it is. We let every department run itself, and in the money that's saved, we share it and distribute it throughout the crew.
And getting people the money they deserve.
I mean, it would be nice if people got paid better.
Yeah.
Our thanks to Willie Geist for that interview. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now. Stay with us. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on a Monday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Valerie Castro in for Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, wild weather. An already waterlogged Northeast is lashed with even more severe storms over the weekend. Those dangerous flash floods turning deadly in Pennsylvania, killing at least 5 people. The storm's also taking a toll on some of the nation's largest airports, with more than 1,500 cancellations reported yesterday alone. It's all happening as the West, the South, and now even Europe stagger through historic heat waves. We've got team coverage and your latest forecast coming up. Also this morning, to catch a killer. It was a Long Island mystery that lasted more than a decade. But this morning, a suspected serial killer in those headline-grabbing Gilgo Beach slayings is behind bars. We'll have the latest on what we know about him so far and what police say led to this long-anticipated arrest. Plus, picket or ticket. A split screen of high-stakes strikes is hammering Hollywood this morning. A-list actors now joining the writers for their first full week on the picket lines. We'll take a closer look at how this will affect Tinseltown's stream of content as the summer blockbuster season heats up. And game, set, match. There's a new champion of center court this morning, crowned at Wimbledon just yesterday after a nail-biter of a match that lasted nearly 5 hours. We've got more on the passing of the torch to tennis's new generation, with all the fiery emotions of competition that went along with it.
It was such a good match to watch and just very exciting. So exciting for him. And Djokovic was, of course, fantastic.
Just a 20-year-old champion.
No,
Amazing.
20 years old. So cool to see.
Well, we start this hour with the devastating flooding in the Northeast.
Yeah, at least 5 people are dead this morning and 2 young children are missing after flash floods swept through eastern Pennsylvania over the weekend. Meanwhile, the central and southwestern parts of the country are dealing with dangerously high temperatures as a days-long heat wave settles in over the region. And the scene is the same along the Mediterranean, where parts of southern Europe are under heat warnings. Officials have actually closed several popular tourist destinations after several days of near-record-breaking high temperatures. We have full coverage around the globe this morning. We're going to get started, though, with NBC News correspondent Kathy Park. She is just north of Philadelphia in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where at least 5 people died over the weekend. Kathy, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. Yeah, much of the country can't seem to catch a break from all this severe weather. And here in the Northeast, many people are waking up to flood damage. We're in Bucks County, PA, and it got so bad over the weekend. The floodwaters actually buckled some of the roadways, even washed away part of this bridge. Debris is scattered everywhere. Meanwhile, the search is intensifying for those 2 missing kids swept away.
This morning, the Northeast recovering from severe storms causing torrential downpours and dangerous flash flooding over the weekend.
In my 44 years, I've never seen anything like it.
And heartbreak in Pennsylvania, where at least 5 are dead from the fierce floods, including a mother. 2 of her children, a 9-month-old baby boy and 2-year-old girl, still missing after their car was caught in the rushing water. The father and their son able to reach safety.
We continue to look for the 2 children. We are not going to give up.
The sudden onslaught of rain catching many off guard.
We got thrown off our motorcycle and ended up floating down the side of the road, clinging to trees, clinging to vines, clinging to whatever we could.
The heavy rainfall impacting communities from Connecticut to Massachusetts, where a tornado touched down, knocking down trees for nearly 2 miles. New Jersey's governor Sunday declaring a state of emergency. And the storms bringing potential travel troubles for the week. More than 1,500 cancellations Sunday alone, as major airports around New York City and Boston issued ground stops. All this as tens of millions are waking up to poor air quality alerts again, including Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York, amid a new round of Canadian wildfire smoke in a summer of unrelenting wild weather.
And back here in Pennsylvania, at the height of the storm, some motorists say they actually had to abandon their vehicles because the water rose that quickly. As you can see behind me, there's still a big mess to clean up, and a lot of the roads here are still impassable.
All right,
Savannah?
Kathy Park, thank you so much. Now our coverage continues with meteorologist Michelle Grossman, of course, who's going to give us the forecast for this morning. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And I live like 10 minutes from where
Kathy is, and that rain was coming down fast and furious. We heard all these fire engines, and we knew something was happening. So really sad to see. And this is what happens with these type of storms. We have a lot of moisture in the air. Any of these storms can create these downpours and flash flooding situations. Let's talk about today, because the good news is in the Northeast, we're starting to clear out. We're drying out. We need that. We're going to bring back the rain chance tomorrow. The interior portions of the Northeast could see a little bit of rain, but the better chance would be parts of the Ohio Valley into the Tennessee Valley. We could see some strong storms too. More chances for strong storms in portions of the Central Plains. Otherwise, we're looking at those hazy skies from the Northern Plains, the Upper Midwest, the Great Lakes into parts of the Northeast. And that big story remains the sweltering heat from the west into the South Central states, also the Southeast. We're looking at Southern Florida into the 90s, and then we're going to add in the humidity. It's going to feel warmer than that. That's Monday. Let's look at Wednesday. We're looking at soggy conditions still in the Ohio Valley to portions of the Tennessee Valley. Notice a little bit more rain into the Mid-Atlantic once again. We could see some showers in southern Florida. We're also looking at sweltering conditions continuing throughout the Southern Plains into the west. The Pacific Northwest are going to be warm as well, and that will continue into the start of your weekend. Friday, we're looking at some showers, maybe some storms in the Central Plains. Also portions of New Mexico. That's going to extend into the Tennessee Valley. Soggy conditions once again into New England. Those are the spots that were so saturated. Also the Northeast. So any sort of rain that will fall over the next few days in these spots will be runoff, or we could see additional flooding. More heat in the west, and that's going to continue into the South Central states as well. So starting with the east, we're looking at lots of people under a heat alert once again. 73 million Americans facing a heat alert once again. 13 states where you see that hot pink color. That's your excessive heat warning, where we see those temperatures really climbing once again into the triple digits, over 110 in some spots, near 115, 116. South Central states, same story. And then in the Southeast, even though you're going to stay put in the 90s, we factor in that humidity. It's going to feel like 110, and that's what it feels like to your body. That's how your body perceives that temperature. So you have to be careful as you're out and about. You want to hydrate. You want to stay in shade, air conditioning if you can. But taking a look at some of these numbers, we have broken so many records over the past 4 weeks. We're going to continue to break records, and we're actually breaking new records. So as we go throughout today, we're looking at 115 in Phoenix, a record of 116. 107 in San Angelo, 100 degrees in Corpus Christi. That's today. Then tomorrow, another record-breaking day. Lots of triple digits once again. Phoenix, 118, probably breaking that record of 115. Wichita Falls, 109. San Antonio, 104. Down into the southeast, we're looking at temperatures into the upper 90s. You factor in the humidity, it's going to feel warmer than that. So Jacksonville, near 100 degrees. The record is 100. So we're going to get pretty close. And this is going to last. We're not going to see any relief in sight. So it's going to be another week of just this dangerous excessive heat. Lubbock, 106 on Wednesday into near 100 degrees on Thursday. Corpus Christi into the mid-90s as well. New Orleans, we're going to be at 97 on Friday. So that is part of the South Central states into the west. Now we're talking about South Florida, because we're looking at temperatures into the 90s. The water's off the coast there near 97 degrees. You factor in that humidity that's coming in, and it's going to feel like 101 in Orlando. 107 will be the heat index in Naples. It's going to feel like 105 in Key West, and also 105 in Miami. So staying toasty also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're looking at the upper 90s in Jacksonville on Wednesday and Thursday in Miami. We're looking at temperatures in the mid 90s. Let's talk about the air quality, because this is a concern as well. It is back. We have that northwesterly flow that's bringing down some wildfire smoke, because we still have over 200 fires burning in Canada. So 85 million people impacted today, from the northern plains to the Midwest, the Great Lakes, into parts of the Northeast. And you can see that flow, right? So that's that northwest flow that's kind of just bringing down that plume of air. It's the wildfire smoke in addition to the ozone. We're also looking at a severe weather threat. 8 million people at risk. We could see some hail, some winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. A low threat for tornadoes. Remember, the ground is really saturated in portions of the Northeast, so we could see some power lines coming down. Also some trees. That's going to bring some power outages. But where you see the yellow on the map there, that's a likely spot for some strong storms.
Oh, you start thinking about all those other things that happen after a storm like that. Oh, yeah. Not just the flooding in the moment, but things like that saturated ground. Ugh.
I know.
All right.
And it's summer, and then the air conditioning goes out.
Oh, and hope everything is okay with you and all your people, because I know you're in that area.
You just felt when these fire engines were screaming down the road, you knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah. All right, Michelle, thank you.
Sure.
Well, the extreme weather is not just impacting the U.S. Parts of Europe are also experiencing dangerously high temperatures and the threat of wildfires. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga is in Rome and joins us now with the latest. Good morning, Claudio. So how bad is this heat wave, and how much of Europe is impacted?
Good morning, Valerie. Well, the answer is it's pretty bad. It's about 102 degrees Fahrenheit here in Rome. It's about 2 p.m. and it's going to get worse tomorrow. The temperature expected, forecasted, is about 118, 119 Fahrenheit tomorrow, somewhere around Italy, which may break the record of the hottest, I'm sorry, there's a truck, of the hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe, which was 119.8, still in Italy, Sicily, a couple of years ago. Now, of course, Italy is not the only one feeling the heat. Many Mediterranean countries like Greece, Spain, France are also recording high temperatures, but this heat wave can affect also, or could affect also countries that are not used to this kind of heat waves, like the Mediterranean countries like Germany, Poland, and as far as the Czech Republic, Valerie.
And Claudio, Italy, where you are, is on track to see some of those record-breaking high temperatures. We know this is the height of tourist season. How are people visiting there coping?
Well, the clever or lucky ones left the cities throughout the weekends because they went to either the mountains or the beaches because this hot storm, as it's called, was forecasted for a few days now. Those who remain in the city, mainly tourists, to be honest. I haven't seen many Romans. They kind of tend to, now it's empty, but usually there's a queue in those water fountains that are dotted around the city where they can fill up their bottles or just put some water on their neck and their heads. Other people feel a bit more adventurous. They throw themselves into the big fountains, which I'll just remind you, it's illegal. But
oh, I think we just lost Claudio there. Hopefully he gets a chance to cool off.
Lots of good information, though, before we lost
Very
him.
good information. History in Hollywood this morning as multiple strikes threaten the future of major productions around the world. The Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America picketing hand in hand as they demand change from industry bosses. National correspondent Miguel Almaguer has the latest.
This morning in Hollywood, actors and writers joining forces on the picket lines in two massive strikes that are bringing the entertainment industry to a halt.
It's a battle worth fighting.
The walkout of 160,000 SAG-AFTRA members has shut down productions around the world. Hollywood's largest union is asking for protections against the rise of artificial intelligence and better compensation, including the residuals model in the streaming era.
To create a whole new business model, but not be willing to change the contract that was predicated off of a completely different industry is insanity.
Some of the biggest names in Hollywood now showing up on the picket lines.
We're in an old contract for a new type of business, and it's just not working for most people.
Others are speaking out online.
There's people in this business that's not even getting paid enough to afford health insurance.
It knows your story.
Over the weekend, movie fans flocked to theaters to see the latest installment of the Mission Impossible franchise, which brought in $80 million in its first 5 days.
I don't accept that.
And the highly anticipated summer blockbusters Oppenheimer and Barbie are generating major buzz ahead of their releases next weekend. The latter expected to be the highest-grossing film of the year. But even with the content studios and streamers have in the can, some insiders say consumers could feel the effects of the Tinseltown shutdown as early as the fall, and most definitely by next year.
There's a reason they call it show business and not show friends. These are not sentimental people. They are people who are looking at a bottom line.
Our thanks to Miguel for that report.
Well, the 2024 GOP presidential race is ramping up, and with second quarter finances recently reported, we're getting a look at the challenges that some candidates are facing. NBC News deputy political editor Ben Camisar joins us now on this. Hey there, good to see you. So let's start with Ron DeSantis. This is one that we really got a bunch of information on. We also know he fired a bunch of his staffers recently, though he did have the largest staff by tens of people. So how much of a red flag is this for his campaign?
Yeah, it's a good question. So fired about a dozen staffers, and honestly, it's indicative of a problem we saw on the campaign finance reports broadly. He's raised a lot of money, but there's questions about the sustainability. Really, there are two ways to raise money in the presidential campaign. You either get a lot of big checks, you get a lot of small checks. But the thing is, those strategies aren't equal because by law, people can only give $3,300 each election cycle. So if you've got a bunch of folks giving big checks, they're done. They're maxed out. Those people are not allowed to help fund your campaign moving forward. That's why people really like to rely on small donors, because if you just give $10 here and there, you're never going to hit that cap. So it's more seen as more of a sustainable donor universe, if you will. DeSantis relied on a lot of those big checks. So now we know that moving forward, he's got to go look for new donors.
Right, absolutely. Let's also talk more broadly about these campaign finance numbers that were reported by many of the candidates this weekend. So who is in the lead? Who does have a lot of money in the bank, is set up well, and who still has catching up to do?
Yeah, it honestly just looks basically like the polling you see. You've got Trump and DeSantis are in sort of leagues of their own. They're both doing pretty well. And then everyone else is kind of where we expect them to be. You see on the screen, Scott and Haley are in that section below. And then you've got folks like Pence and Christie that, despite their high name recognition, are struggling to break out.
And Ben, what do you think? Is it too early for any of this to really mean all that much or indicate anything that could be, the longer term outcome that we see?
It's a good question. It's a nerdy question. I'll try and be brief. But, I'd say what we're seeing now is campaigns building the foundation that they're hoping is going to bring them into Iowa, into New Hampshire, into Super Tuesday, and hopefully to the nomination. So the warning signs you see now, if those aren't addressed in the months to come, these candidates aren't going to make it there. So it's nerdy, but it's worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. Ben, thank you so much. Good to see you.
We turn now to a case that spanned more than a decade and made national headlines, the Gilgo Beach murders.
Police arrested the suspected serial killer following an intense investigation. Officials say advances in DNA technology is what helped crack this case. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk joins us with the latest on this. Hey, Stephanie, good morning.
Hey, Savannah and Valerie, good morning to you guys. According to court documents, investigators found that Rex Heuermann conducted over 200 searches related to serial killers and updates on the Gilgo murder investigation. It's why prosecutors relied on the power of the grand jury to keep their proceedings under the radar from their prime suspect.
Rex, did you do it?
This morning, the suspected serial killer behind the Gilgo Beach slayings is behind bars.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
59-year-old Rex Heuermann is accused of murdering Megan Waterman, Melissa Barthelemy, and Amber Costello. The victim's remains found wrapped in burlap within a quarter-mile stretch on Long Island's Gilgo Beach back in 2010. A witness helped crack the case, according to court documents.
Witnesses provided a description of the individual, which was detailed and indicated that the person was somewhat unique.
Describing a large white male with dark bushy hair driving a Chevy Avalanche. Detectives connecting that vehicle to Heuermann, as well as using DNA samples from bottles and this pizza crust pulled from the trash. The case had haunted Long Island's South Shore for over a decade after the remains were initially found. Those who lived there afraid a serial killer was on the loose. Heuermann, an architect and a married father of two, was allegedly hiding in plain sight and living a double life all along. Even using burner phones, say investigators, who tracked Heuermann's phone activity near his Fifth Avenue office in Manhattan and his suburban home in Massapequa Park on Long Island. Investigators also believe Heuermann used Melissa Barthelemy's cell phone to make taunting calls to her family members after she disappeared. His arrest unraveling years of secrets, with court documents detailing escort services and fake dating profiles. A stark contrast to the everyday businessman seen in this video taken last year.
When a job that should have been routine suddenly becomes not routine, I get the phone call.
Authorities now continuing to investigate if Heuermann is connected to the murder of other women, including Maureen Brainerd Barnes.
Even with this arrest, we're not done. There's more work to do.
Heuermann is pleading not guilty. His attorney telling NBC News overnight that he has insisted he did not commit these crimes. There is nothing about Mr. Heuermann that would suggest that he is involved in these incidents, says his defense attorney. If convicted, he faces life without parole and is expected back in court on August 1st, guys.
Ooh, lots of disturbing details there.
Yeah, there certainly are. And the charges are likely still coming.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Coming up a little later on Morning News Now, if you can believe it, that massive Powerball jackpot is still without a winner. And get this, it's up to $900 million. So I've only got one question. Savannah, are you feeling lucky?
I'm not.
We've got your latest odds in just a moment.
I guess I need to buy a ticket first in order to feel anything. But first, there's a missing person mystery in Alabama that's raising eyebrows. This morning, a woman vanished after a 911 call, only to return home more than 2 days later on foot. The new questions surrounding her disappearance after this. Welcome back. Questions are now growing regarding the disappearance of a young woman in Alabama.
Carly Russell went missing after calling 911 to report a toddler walking on the interstate. And then after more than 48 hours, she suddenly turned up at her family's home. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson joins us now from Hoover, Alabama with the latest. Priscilla, good morning.
Valerie, Savannah, good morning. That's right. 25-year-old Carly Russell is back home safe and surrounded by family, as now there are new questions about where she's been, what happened to her, and the 911 call that started it all.
I'm so thankful that Carly is home safe. So thankful.
This morning, the search for Carly Russell is over. The missing 25-year-old nursing student returned to her family home Saturday night. Police say she arrived alone and on foot. Angela Harris helped lead the community search for her.
You spoke to this family moments after Carly came home.
Right.
What did they say?
It was just kind of like a very emotional phone call. I just broke down and I said, "Is she okay?" And she said, I don't know, she seems to be okay. She just seems to be in shock.
Officials say Russell was taken to the hospital for evaluation and has since been released. Her safe return putting an end to a days-long search that began Thursday night with a puzzling 911 call. Police say Russell told an emergency operator she saw a toddler walking alone on an interstate.
459 South, mile marker 10. It's going to be a child walking on the 3 or 4-year-old child walking on the side of the interstate.
It's believed she then stopped to check on the child and was on the phone with a family member when she disappeared.
She heard a scream and then some type of running type shuffle.
Russell's parents horrified.
I just felt immediately that she was in danger.
Video from the interstate where Russell vanished shows a car driving slowly with its flashers on.
Just be advised, her vehicle is unlocked, running. All her personal belongings except for her phone.
Police say when they arrived, they found Russell's car, her cell phone and purse on the road nearby. But there were no signs of Russell or a child. An urgent search ensued, both on the ground and on social media.
I need everyone to stop and pay attention.
Where her disappearance quickly went viral. Celebrities including Wanda Sykes, Viola Davis, and Octavia Spencer spreading the word. Still, questions remain about where Russell was for those 48 hours and who she was with. A man identifying himself as Russell's boyfriend writing on social media she was literally fighting for her life for 48 hours and that she is not able to give any updates or whereabouts on her kidnapper. The police chief telling NBC News in a phone call they've spoken to Russell and are following up on the information she provided.
And another big question, what happened to that child that Russell said she saw on the interstate? Police said that they received no other calls about a child on the interstate, and they also received no reports of a missing child. The police chief tells me they're planning to speak with Russell again in the coming days as the investigation continues. Valerie?
Okay, Priscilla, thank you so much. International headlines now. In Iran, the morality police are back patrolling the streets in order to crack down on strict Islamic dress codes. NBC News foreign correspondent Ali Arouzi joins us now with more. Good morning, Ali.
Good morning, Valerie. That's right. Iran's much feared, much hated morality police are back on the streets following their absence after the death of Mahsa Amini while she was in police custody earlier this year, which sparked massive, deadly nationwide protests that rocked the Islamic Republic to its core. Police say they've started vehicle and foot patrols across the country, setting the scene for renewed tensions. 4 swimmers in central Japan have been injured in dolphin attacks A man had suffered broken ribs and bites, where another man in a separate incident also suffered from bites to the arms. Dolphins are not usually aggressive to humans, but aggression towards swimmers is not unheard of. Scientists have suggested that bottlenose dolphins feel incredibly stressful when they swim alongside humans. And finally, a man and his dog have been rescued after spending months adrift in the Pacific Ocean in a remarkable story of survival. The 51-year-old man stayed alive by catching and eating raw fish, collecting rainwater, and sheltering from the sun inside his catamaran. A helicopter spotted them and they were rescued after 2 months at sea. Never have 6 sea legs been so happy to see land. And those are your international headlines, guys.
Okay, Ali, thank you so much. Coming up, the doctor is in, though, with a little bit of a summer bummer. Cases of the common cold are on the rise, even with those sky-high temperatures. So what's behind these unseasonable sniffles? The doctor will see you next. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. The common cold is hitting Americans at rates we have not seen in years. NBC News senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres has all the germy details.
The temperatures might be soaring, but for many Americans, that hasn't stopped the cold. The common cold, that is.
It's the worst cold that I have gotten.
Across the country,
it started off with sneezing, then congestion.
It's been the summer of sniffles.
And just a lot of, runny nose, always keeping tissues next to me.
So the numbers you're seeing now, more than during the pandemic?
More than during the pandemic, absolutely.
Dr. Larissa Pisney specializes in infectious diseases at the University of Colorado Hospital, UC Health.
We're hearing from actually a lot of people that I'm getting a summer cold. I haven't gotten it for the last 2 or 3 years. Are you seeing the same thing here, that numbers are going up?
So compared to the rates of positivity for things like rhinovirus, enterovirus, adenovirus, we are seeing increased numbers compared to prior years.
Those are some of the viruses that can cause the common cold. And if you look at the CDC chart, it shows how the adenovirus has peaked this summer nationwide.
Sick absolutely sucks, and I've been going through 1,000,001 tissues.
It was kind of weird to stay inside and have a cold and want to drink tea when it was 85 degrees outside.
So why are we seeing more colds now?
It's basically we are not masking, we're not hand washing as much.
Doctors believe those pandemic precautions so many took kept the cold at bay.
If you do have a cough or cold, make sure you hand wash. Up to you if you would like to wear your mask or not.
And it's the same if you want to avoid a cold. Wash your hands frequently and even wear a mask in crowded spaces if you choose. Ways to avoid this now common summer bummer.
I've never gotten sick during the summer, so I was like, what's going on?
Dr. John Torres joins us now for more on this. Good morning, Dr. John. As you mentioned in your piece, according to the CDC, adenovirus cases are up this summer. Talk to us about that and some of the other viruses that are going around, and what are the differences between them?
I myself had a summer cold a couple weeks ago, which is why I'm chuckling, because I felt exactly what they're feeling right now. It's not something you want to have, because you get these sniffles and you just feel horrible for a couple of days. But there's essentially 3 main ones: adenovirus, enterovirus, and rhinovirus, that cause common colds. But coronavirus can also cause a cold, or it can cause COVID, depending on which virus. And unfortunately, there's about 200 different viruses out there that can cause our cold. And there are some similarities between them. Number one, you start just feeling under the weather. You might get low-grade fevers. You get the sniffles, you get congestion, cough. Usually you don't get a sore throat, but you can. However, with coronavirus, that's a little different. That's when you start getting that sore throat. And the difference being between a cold and coronavirus is coronavirus tends to go a little deeper in the respiratory system, and so you get more respiratory type symptoms associated with it. But usually for most people, this should be a 2 to 3 day type illness. With the summer cold, you should get over it fairly quickly, and you should be able to get over it at home. If it lasts longer than that, that's when you need to be seen.
Okay, 2 to 3 days. That sounds pretty manageable. But if you do catch the cold, what is the best way to combat it?
So the best way to combat it is, number one, stay home. You want to avoid other people because you don't want to spread it. Also, you want to get those things that can help you through the cold. You know, there are a lot of over-the-counter medications that can help for fevers. You know, acetaminophen can really help bring the fever down, ibuprofen. There are decongestants out there if you need those as well. But for most of us, it's just a matter of just riding it out, making sure, and this is probably the most important thing, that you stay hydrated and you get as much rest as you can, and that'll help you get over the cold, again, 2 or 3 days.
Is this just an anomaly we're seeing right now, or is this something we're going to start seeing all year long going around forward?
You know, I think what we're going to see is we're going to start seeing a lot more of this happening year-round because we've added that extra COVID on top of this and the different COVID viruses that can cause, or coronaviruses that can cause cold on top of that. Again, like I mentioned, the virus that causes COVID itself. And so right now, the way COVID has transpired is it's gotten down to the level where the symptoms are similar to cold-like symptoms, so it's going to be hard to tell the difference. On top of that, we're getting together a lot more. We have that, you know, revenge travel, people getting together with families, and so it is spreading, and my guess is it'll continue to spread throughout the year.
And Dr. John, you mentioned the travel, everyone's getting together, family reunions are coming up. Do you have any tips for staying healthy while still enjoying the summer months?
And that's the most important thing. You want to make sure you enjoy the summer months. You want to make sure you enjoy family and friends because it's been a while since we've been able to get back together. And so, number one, try and do that as best you can. But also remember, you want to keep everybody else safe. And so if you're sick, stay home. And the same thing we've been talking about for the last 3 years. If you do go out and you're sick or you're feeling under the weather, wear a mask. That protects everybody around you. And probably the single most important thing that every expert I talked to said is make sure you wash your hands because it is a respiratory virus, but it also spreads from touching those doorknobs, those countertops, those faucet sinks, handles. So make sure you wash your hands frequently. Again, that's that 20 seconds we've been talking about for years. It applies here as well.
Okay, Dr. John, and I hope you're feeling better as well. Dr. John Torres, thanks so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, it was a center court nail biter that ended with a new champion of Wimbledon, the 20-year-old prodigy who took tennis's highly coveted throne. But first, are you feeling lucky on this Monday morning? Well, now's your chance to really cash in. The Powerball jackpot is now up to a staggering $900 million. We've got your new odds of winning or not after this. If you haven't bought a ticket for tonight's Powerball drawing, you might want to reconsider. That's because the jackpot is now at $900 million. That means the estimated lump sum payout is projected to be $465 million. This big lottery jackpot comes after no ticket matched the winning combination after Saturday's drawing. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa joins us now from Chicago with all you need to know about tonight's drawing. So, Maggie, I see you've got your ticket there. Other people are scrambling to get their tickets for tonight's drawing. So let's break down the statistics. What are the odds of someone actually winning this prize?
The odds, Valerie, are, in a word, terrible. Specifically, going by the numbers, they are 1 in 292 million. But listen, nobody buys a ticket thinking about that, right? Okay, they're thinking about the jackpots for tonight. Again, it's $900 million, a lump sum payout of $465.1 million. And there you can see there are also kind of smaller chances to win. If you get 5 numbers with no Powerball, you can get $1 million. If you match 4 numbers with no Powerball, $50,000. So again, there are options out there, but the odds are slim, to say the least. That being said, fingers crossed for everybody, myself included.
All right, so we got to dream big, Maggie, right? So what are some things that you could buy with $900 million?
So glad you asked. Clearly, because we have to start planning, right? That's just smart finances. So our team did some research with this. $900 million, weirdest yardsticks I've ever heard of, but 219 yachts, because sure, 2.64 million 50-inch TVs, again, why not? You're rich now. And 900,000 iPhone Pros. No clue why anybody would need that many iPhones, but I mean, if nothing else, you can hand them out to your 900,000 friends who will undoubtedly call you for money. Well, so there you go.
You'll have redundancies and backups and backups and backups to those phones every time they break. So
exactly, yeah.
Maggie, people also have the opportunity to win big with the Mega Millions jackpot. What can you tell us about that?
I know. So we have both lining up at the same time. Mega Millions drawing is tomorrow night. Powerball's tonight. Mega Millions tomorrow. The value for that at this point, $640 million. That is a lump sum payout of $328 million. I want to point out I have these 2 tickets. I have a Powerball and I have a Mega Millions. So I've already gotten sucked into the excitement for both. And in particular, here in Illinois, the Mega Millions excitement is kind of familiar because last year, you might remember, an Illinois resident who remained anonymous, we still don't know who they are, they won $1.34 billion from the Mega Millions jackpot. So it has happened here before. The hopes are high again that lightning could potentially strike twice. Valerie, good luck.
Maggie, good luck to you. You've reminded me to go get my tickets, so thank you for that. More financial headlines. Labor talks are underway as crucial deadlines loom over UPS and the Teamsters. CNBC's Pippa Stevens joins us once again with more on that and other money news. Pippa, good morning.
Hey, Valerie. The head of the Teamsters union has asked the White House not to intervene if UPS workers go on strike. Talks between UPS and the union, which represents 340,000 employees, have been stalled for more than a week, with the July 31st deadline approaching. If a strike does happen, it would be the first since a 15-day walkout crippled the company in 1997. A sticking point in the talks is wage increases for part-time workers. Meantime, Tesla's first Cybertruck rolled off the assembly line in Texas this weekend after more than 2 years of delays. A prototype of the futuristic-looking electric pickup truck was unveiled by CEO Elon Musk in 2019. But production has been repeatedly pushed back due to what Tesla says were supply chain issues. Musk has said the first Cybertrucks would be made this year, with a ramp-up in production starting in 2024. It's Tesla's biggest new vehicle launch since the Model Y in 2020. Finally, Samsung may be testing features of ChatGPT in their web browser on its iPhones. Android Authority reporting code in the browser software contains several references to the popular AI chatbot. The site speculates it may only be used to generate page summaries. Samsung is reportedly open to replacing Google as the default search engine on its devices, possibly due to Microsoft's partnership with ChatGPT maker OpenAI. Back over to you.
All right, Pippa, thank you so much. Turning to tennis now, and it was a weekend of upsets over at the Wimbledon Championships. In the women's final, the unseeded Czech player Markéta Vondrousová beat the Tunisian favorite Ons Jabeur in straight sets. And in the men's game, Spain's Carlos Alcaraz defeated the defending champion Novak Djokovic in an epic 5-set battle. Here's Alcaraz speaking to our colleagues on the Today Show a little earlier.
It was a dream come true for me, you know, defeat Novak the way that I did in the center court. He was unbeaten for 10 years, so it was tough to deal with the nerves, you know, facing Novak in that stage. But I'm really glad that I did.
And joining us now to talk more about this is Lucas Weiss. He is a staff editor of news over at The Athletic. Lucas, thanks for being here with us. Really thrilling finish to the men's final with the top two players battling out on center court. How did Alcaraz manage to beat one of the greatest players of all time?
Well, first off, thanks so much for having me on. Just an incredible, epic victory for Carlos Alcaraz, and he lost the first set 6-1, and tennis fans were probably thinking at that time, this is going to be a dominant win for Novak Djokovic. But for Alcaraz, he limited the unforced errors throughout the course of the match. It was clear early on that he was feeling a bit nervous. He went for a lot more shots, leading to those mistakes. So he limited the unforced errors, and that really allowed him to get into his game. He has such an all-around game. He can defend. He has these explosive ground strokes on the run, and it really bothered Novak Djokovic. A lot of opponents against Djokovic have to deal with Novak's defense. Now Djokovic had to deal with this human wall known as Carlos Alcaraz. So an incredible effort to come back. He refused to quit, and that's why he won his first Wimbledon title.
Djokovic was a good sport about all of this. He praised Alcaraz after the game, saying the Spaniard has the best qualities of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and himself. Just how good is this 20-year-old, and how far do you expect him to go?
The sky's the limit for Carlos Alcaraz. He won the U.S. Open last year. He now has a Wimbledon title. He's just the fifth man in the Open era to have multiple Grand Slam titles before the age of 21, joining the likes of Rafael Nadal, Bjorn Borg, Boris Becker, and Mats Wilander. So if Alcaraz can just stay healthy, and I really do think that he can contend in a lot of these Grand Slams. Now, Novak Djokovic isn't handing up the racket anytime soon. He's still going to be very motivated. to rack up more slams, finishing his career as the #1 leader in men's singles Grand Slam titles. But Carlos Alcaraz is now the challenger, and hopefully we get more Djokovic-Alcaraz battles at slams.
So much fun to watch. Let's switch gears and talk about the Saturday's women's final. We saw the Czech player Vondrousova become the first unseeded woman to win Wimbledon. How much of a shock was her victory?
A super shock. Vondrousova came into Wimbledon only having won one match at the All England Club. Entering this grass court season, she just had a 2-10 record on the grass court. So not a lot of success on grass, but she was just able to push through the draw and really showcase a variety of shots. She's quite the crafty player. And it was amazing because a year ago she was dealing with wrist injury. She came to Wimbledon just as a fan. So for 1 year later, after the wrist surgery, to come back and win her first slam at Wimbledon, it was an amazing result.
All right, congratulations to all the big winners. Lucas Weiss, thank you so much. Turning now from tennis to soccer, it's about to get messy in Miami by way of soccer legend Lionel Messi, the man frequently hailed as the greatest living player, now bringing his talents to the U.S. by way of South Beach. NBC News correspondent Guad Venegas joins us now from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with the latest. Good morning, Guad.
Valerie, good morning. It was quite the party here yesterday, despite the hot temperatures and also a storm, a classic South Florida storm that came through. The fans waited and they were happy to be there. I think today all of them can brag that they were here when Messi was unveiled as the new number 10 of Inter Miami.
Lionel Andres Messi!
The king of soccer has arrived in America.
Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Overnight, superstar Lionel Messi introduced for the first time as a player for Inter Miami CF. A stunning move to the MLS that has sent the soccer world into a frenzy.
How is Miami feeling right now?
Miami's getting crazy about Messi. The Argentinian legend receiving a hero's welcome in South Florida at the franchise's home stadium. Thousands of fans waiting through a lengthy weather delay to welcome their hero in person.
Muchas gracias a todos por este día.
Messi telling the crowd he plans to enjoy playing in Miami while assuring good things are coming as he thanked the tens of thousands in attendance. Recognized as one of the greatest players of all time, his resume speaks for itself. He's won a record 7 Ballon d'Or awards given to the world's top player, has scored more than 800 goals for club and country, and led Argentina to the World Cup title last year.
Why is this the most popular jersey right now? It has Messi in the back symbol.
Messi's new boss in Miami, another soccer legend, David Beckham, joining the celebration on stage. The now co-owner of Inter Miami knows a thing or two about making a major MLS splash. After years in Europe as a soccer icon, Beckham spent several seasons stateside playing for the LA Galaxy before moving into the owner's box. In 2020, Beckham telling Today,
nothing goes on without me overseeing things, bringing in players, bringing in the coach.
Beckham's biggest signing is already shopping like a local. Messi spotted with his family at a public supermarket in recent days. And now with his contract official,
this is history right here.
The world's most accomplished soccer star is looking to make his mark on Miami and the MLS.
And Valerie, I do have the hottest jersey in Miami. If anyone's planning to visit here again, I know you were recently in Miami. If you come back, you want to get yourself one of these. For the fans that want to see him play, his first game is going to be on Friday. That'll be the first time that Miami puts on this jersey and plays for the team right here in front of what's expected to be a packed house.
I think you got a very good assignment this weekend, Guad. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We want to get to some breaking news now. Evacuations are underway in Pennsylvania after a freight train derailed just north of Philadelphia. The crash happened in White Marsh Township this morning. More than a dozen cars were knocked off the tracks. You can see the cars twisted and scattered there. A white substance appeared to be leaking from at least one tanker, but police later said the substance was not a risk to the community. Norfolk Southern owns the tracks where the crash occurred while the train was being operated by CSX. Teams from both companies are on the scene while Montgomery County officials are investigating. Coming up, it's not a red flag, but it's not exactly a green flag either. Beige flags are taking the dating scene and, of course, TikTok by storm. So what are they, and what could some of your beige flags be? Savannah takes a closer look up next. Welcome back. The cutest invasive species is taking over a Florida neighborhood. Lionhead rabbits are hopping around the streets of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A past resident of the neighborhood bred the fluffy rabbits and illegally released them after moving. Some residents have now complained about the released rabbits chewing outdoor wiring, droppings everywhere, and holes in their yards. Now some residents are trying to raise between $20,000 and $40,000 to ensure these rabbits are taken off the streets and into loving homes. And I feel like alligators might be moving into that neighborhood soon.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know if I'd call that the good talk, or that's something. All right, we end this hour, though, with a new trend for revealing your partner's little quirks in a big way online, labeling them beige rather than red flags. And these videos are racking up hundreds of millions of views, almost 1 billion now. But what is a beige flag exactly? Take a look.
You know the age-old warning sign.
My boyfriend thinks I'm fat.
Whoa, partner. Little red flag going up. That means you might want to steer clear of a potential romantic partner.
Red flags.
Big red flag. No more red flags, right?
But sometimes things aren't so red or black and white. Sometimes they're beige.
She was really cool. And then, out of nowhere...
Beige flags are the slightly unusual traits or habits people notice in their significant other or possible romantic interest. Like dunking Pop-Tarts in water or setting a timer to wake up instead of an alarm. They aren't quite deal breakers, but they make you go, The idea going viral online and racking up over 950 million views, with people posting what they think are beige flags. Each flag such a smooth jazz, from a husband that's truly always right to a girlfriend who can't tell left from right. In Commie Bear's case, her boyfriend's beige flag is how he throws random surprise parties for only her, like this Peppa Pig themed one.
I definitely cried tears of happiness because I was just so confused. Like a massive Peppa party, but I just did not expect it.
Naya Hertz's fiance's beige flag, Joanne Maurice asks really intimate questions while out to dinner. From which parent are you most like to when do you feel most vulnerable?
I like to have, some sort of conversation, whenever we go out to eat or, just go on a date. That was just something that I usually do. Just look up some questions, relationship questions.
Different from, how's the weather, how's work?
Yeah.
When Naya raised the flag on TikTok, nearly 6,000 comments responded. Some saying Joanne's beige flag flies a little green. One person commenting, "This is so cute." Another, "He's a keeper."
And you just we're right here. We're going to get into this.
Right.
Roll the tape. So, which for your childhood memory?
This is making this make more sense to me, though, hearing your story about why, for you, it's a beige flag.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And not just all green.
Who needs 5 almost empty Speed Stick deodorants? What are you, a crazy bag man?
They're different smells.
But can a beige flag be a real concern?
If it's making you furious and you've discussed it with them and they can't change and you can't overlook it.
It's okay to overlook certain things.
Absolutely. Just try to think of the good things about the person. Don't dwell on the bad. But the brain is built to notice the bad, and you don't want to spend the next 50 years with somebody if it's driving you nuts.
In the end, for people like Naya and Joanne, beige flags aren't about pointing out the things that divide.
We all connect through love. That's the story right there. That's it. Right. Everybody wants their one person that's going to throw them a Peppa Pig party.
See, I don't know. Peppa Pig party, that's not a beige flag for me. That veers more red, but other people say green. That's the whole idea.
That's an odd one.
My husband says mine is that I don't open the mail, which is true. Not the mailbox, not the letters, not the nothing. I figure they can find me online.
Yeah. Well, my husband does the same thing. So.
There we go. We share a beige flag.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now. Stay with us.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.